Hello, and welcome to the MarkZDrumcast. It is Friday. It is November. It's getting chilly, but I like it. I like this kind of weather. My dogs love to explore outside. I sit outside. It's a beautiful day, and yeah, I'm loving it. It's fire pit season. So, Halloween has just passed. First of all, let me open this show correctly. Welcome to the MarkZDrumcast. My name is Mark Zapata. I am the owner and founder of MarkZDrums and the host of the MarkZDrumcast on YouTube. You can join me here on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Around this time, noon, this was kind of a late start. Friday is kind of an amorphous day where it can be a prime time drumcast. It could be a late afternoon drumcast. It could be a noon drumcast. Fridays are a little more flexible in that regard. But anyway, here we are, and welcome to the show. It is a beautiful day, and as I began to say, Halloween just happened. On my channel, I had an idea to do a drum cover of This Is Halloween from the Tim Burton film The Nightmare Before Christmas, and a film I have never seen and probably will never see, but a lot of my students like that song. I happen to like that song, and I stumbled upon, as I was kind of working through ideas to do this drum cover, and again, it was kind of a last minute thing. In hindsight, I probably would have put it up maybe a few days or a week before Halloween, but I put it up on Halloween night. And but it was just something fun that I wanted to do, and so I found this drum sound on my TD50KV2 Roland drum kit. Hold on a second. So I'm gonna let you hear this drum sound, and it's pretty awesome. So that's kind of the basis of what I used to run through the song. I didn't really even know the song that well, but I think it came out cool. I totally desaturated the video, and it looked kind of spooky. I have a lot of ideas, or I had a lot of ideas. Had I thought of it sooner, see, that's what happens a lot of times. My great ideas come a bit too late, and then the execution's not really there because there's not enough prep time. But anyway, this is what we work on, right? So go check that out. It's really fun. It was fun to do. That sound, right? This orchestra setting on my drum set is just phenomenal. There's so many things that I want to do with it, but that was just a taste of what it sounds like. So the topic of today's show is a really interesting one. It is the new landscape of drumming. And it may not be so new, but it's more based on a realization that I had speaking to some colleagues, some people who teach, some people that own schools. And I like to get into these conversations because I get different perspectives and I get better understanding of all aspects of, like, music education, for example. And as we were talking about the habits of some of my drum students and the way they approach their instrument. And I've talked about this before, and I'm not going to really bring it up again, but the way they approach their instrument, I began to think, like, why is that, right? And one of the biggest things that I came away with, let me get the chat up here because if anybody wants to hop on in, I would love to see you guys. Okay, so one of the things that that I realized was that the landscape of drumming has changed, along with so many other things. I don't know, let's say over the past 10 years, right? So many things have changed because of, for example, social media. Things have changed because of the internet in general. Our access to information. We have so much access to so much information now, whereas maybe 10 years ago, not as much. And over the course of time, I think as human beings, we have adapted to intake so much more information on a daily basis from all around us. And just think about how we are inundated with stimulus every day. Obviously, we have our phones, which I think we can all agree that we're probably too kind of addicted to our phones, too dependent on our phones, too into our phones. And if you don't agree, that's fine. I'll speak for myself. Having to be very close to your phone at all times, always checking for messages, emails, notifications, all kinds of things, right? I've become tethered to my phone in that way, to the point where I have decided that, you know, the phone needs to be in another room for a good part of the day while I'm around, unless I absolutely need to find certain information or communicate with somebody. I don't need to have it. You know, I don't need to be randomly checking things unless I have a specific purpose. So that's one of the things I'm doing to kind of change my behavior when in regards to the phone and how I interact with my phone. But let me get back to the point, which is the internet in general and social media. I think the drumming landscape has changed because I think that the way drummers perform has changed. The way drummers express themselves has changed in a way. So one of the things I've noticed about probably a lot of my students, as well as some of my students that perform in the student bands that I work with, is that they seem to be performing in a bubble when they're performing with the band. And I've been talking to them individually and as a group that we need not play in a bubble. We need to pay attention to what the other musicians in our band are doing, for the very simple reason, number one, because when we are performing, if somebody makes a mistake and moves on to a different part of the song too soon, or stays in a part of the song for too long, the rest of the band notices this because they're listening to everybody. And the moment somebody in the band notices this, then we need to move to get back on the same page. And I don't believe that getting that person back on the same page as us is beneficial or even really possible at that point. I think we need to go in the opposite direction, and wherever that person goes, we need to follow them and try to make it as seamless as possible, because that's an easier way, if everybody is paying attention, that's an easier way for everybody to get back on track. And then we can move through the song, hopefully, without incident the rest of the way. But if everybody's playing in a bubble and looking down at their instruments or looking down at the floor, not paying attention to what the other musicians and bandmates are doing, that could really cause a problem. That could cause us to miss something like somebody changing too soon or too late, and will also cause us to miss that opportunity to get together. And I started thinking, why? Why do people play in a bubble like this? It's not something that I've ever experienced, and I think, and please leave. What's up, Jerry? Leave comments about your thoughts about this, right? So my theory is this: in the drumming world, we have many, many, many more people playing drums for the internet, for their followers, for their fans, just like I'm doing now, right? I am live streaming with drumming content. Sometimes I do drum covers, like I talked about the Halloween drum cover I did of This Is Halloween. I have a new drum cover coming up very soon, and I'm going to be doing song breakdowns. But anyway, this is kind of new to me. I've kind of always made YouTube videos, but now I've really kind of put a lot more time and energy into it because I think it's super important. And it's important to kind of have conversations like this. So I think when we have so many creators and drummers and artists that are now live streaming and performing solely for their internet audience, it changes and shifts the dynamic of drummers coming up, right? Because think about the young person watching these creators and drummers on YouTube and how they experience drumming for the first time, and what is their understanding of drumming? How do they view drumming and drummers if they're watching people solely creating drumming content and performing for the internet? Okay, so that's one thing. When I was young, I remember probably 9 or 10 years old being at Disneyland and waiting to see Buddy Rich perform with his big band. It was probably sometime in the 70s, mid 70s, and I just remember waiting for a long time. I guess the band didn't go on time or whatever it was, but I remember that. And I remember that experience impacting me, seeing this man play drums the way Buddy Rich did, to the point that at 10 years old, I still remember that experience to this day. And so seeing a drummer play with other musicians in a band situation is where I first experienced drums. And I get curious to know where my students first get that inclination that they want to play drums, or what is the incident or the time or the situation that caused my students' parents to sign them up for drum lessons. What was that point, right? So for me, I don't know if you've heard my origin story. I keep saying I'm going to make a video, and I probably did, but I'll make a new one. When I was 7 years old, I was with my family on a trip to California, and I had nothing to do. I was the only kid in the house, so I was in one of the kids' bedrooms, and I opened the closet, and there was a drum set inside. I didn't know what it was, but it was shiny. It caught my attention. I pulled everything out of the closet that looked like it belonged together, and I started putting the drums together, and I started hitting the drums with drumsticks. There were rototoms involved, a small 3 or 4 piece drum set. And that was the moment for me, because my dad came into the room. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I don't know." And he bought that drum set, shipped it back to New York where we lived, and that became my first drum set. So that was the point that prompted my dad to do something about my drumming and encourage me in that direction. And I thank him all the time today, because if it wasn't for that time and that moment and his recognition, I wouldn't be where I am now, and I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today, and I wouldn't have had all of the amazing experiences I've had in drumming and playing in bands and everything that I've been fortunate to be able to do. So that was my moment. So when I have students come in at a young age, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, and they don't have a favorite band, they don't have a favorite song, some of them don't even listen to music. So I'm like, okay, if you're not listening to the music, why do you want to play drums? Well, maybe they saw somebody playing drums on YouTube. Maybe they saw somebody just with a drum set, playing drums, performing, and it sounded cool to them. Maybe it was a drum cover with a song playing, or maybe it was just somebody soloing. You don't really know. But the way things are today, we have so many creators, like I said before, that are playing for the internet. That's their audience, that's their stage. Whatever room they have, whatever studio they have, like me right here, right? This is my stage for the internet. Now, of course, I spent many years playing in bands, thousands of shows I've played, big ones, small ones, all over the country, all over the world. So I've had that experience, and now I'm kind of moving into this internet space with a live stream about drums and some drum covers. I'm working on an instructional video course for drumming. I'm working on a book. So I'm moving into this space, but I come from live performance, recording, writing sessions. That's where I come from. So if you think about how some of these young people are coming up and how they're experiencing drums and drumming and drummers, it may be very different from the way I experience drumming, drummers, and drums in general. So as a teacher, I'm really thinking about how I approach my students, and now with this kind of new awareness about how they may have started out playing drums, I think it's going to really help me to understand my students better, and then absolutely to better teach them and better be able to help them achieve what they want to achieve. And I think it's certainly fine if you are a person whose goal is to be a YouTube drummer or a TikTok drummer or an internet creator with drums, whether that's all you want to do, or if you have aspirations on joining a band and performing live and going in that direction. Either way is fine, right? There's room for everybody. But this new segment of the drumming community, I'm really kind of taking a look at how it's influencing young drummers coming up, which is really super interesting. So I think that having the experiences that I've had shaped me into the drummer that I am today. But when I think about my young students and I think about that question of why are we playing in a bubble, and not really aware of our surroundings, is because maybe that's kind of what the younger people coming up, maybe that's what they're used to seeing. They may be just used to seeing like a young guy or a young girl like shredding on guitar on YouTube. And, you know, they form attachments to people on YouTube. I know I have. You know, I'll see a creator that I find very interesting, and I follow their channel and I subscribe to their channel, and I hit the notification bell when new content comes up. I go and I watch their videos. And you build those relationships with these creators. And I have people that I go to for certain things. How do I do this? How do I do that? Well, I've kind of gravitated to certain creators that can help me with the technical aspect of my studio, or how to use this piece of equipment, or how to use this piece of software. Whatever it is, you know, you find your people. So I think when young people first get curious to play an instrument, they may go online and try to find somebody that they can relate to, that they like, and that may be where they start their journey. So I think it's very interesting about how that's changed over the years. Oh, I get you. That's awesome, Jerry. Yeah, but maybe it makes things easier, right? You got to have like a QR code right where you're performing, and then people can just click, you know, open up their phones, take a picture of that QR code, boom, boom, boom. There's the transactions, right? So that's another kind of subject that's along these lines. We move along and we adapt to changes in our industries. Musicians, bands, professionals that used to make money a certain way with their music have had to change and pivot and change the way they do things in order to make money in today's climate, the way the music industry is structured today. And the same with teaching. The same with the actors' strike. You think about the actors' strike, the writers' strike. Television, movies, the way people consume those types of entertainment has changed dramatically, right? Drastically. But the way that the creative people that create this content, that has not changed the way they get paid and the way they get compensated. So that's what this latest actor strike, writer strike is all about, is bringing these people and their compensation models up to speed with the industry. They were not getting compensated for a lot of things that they created, and in the way things changed, the studios were making all the money, and then kind of the creators were left out in the cold. The actors, the writers, all the people involved in the production of this content were kind of left out in the cold, and the content became the thing that made the money for the studios. So anyway, I'm not an actor. I'm not a writer. I've just read up on it. I've looked into it. I think it's very interesting because I think music has also gone through a similar change with streaming and how music is delivered and consumed by the average person. We don't go to record stores and buy records and get paid for every person that buys our record. That doesn't happen anymore. People are renting music now where you pay a fee for a month and you have access to millions and millions and hundreds of millions of songs, and the artist is getting like, crumbs per download, to the point where they have to get, 1 million downloads to see any kind of significant pay. And again, we're not buying music anymore, we're renting it. We're paying for the ability to listen to it, but we don't own the music. There's no physical media that we own anymore. We're not purchasing something, taking it home, and we have it now. We're paying for the ability to hear this music, which is totally different and crazy than it's ever been before. So now artists have had to go to different ways of making money through touring and merch. And touring is very expensive and merch is very expensive. So how do people get fans to come to their shows? Well, they give away their albums, they give away their music for free on YouTube so that people can hear it, or they play it, put it on Spotify or Amazon Music or Apple Music. They make their music available for rent across all these platforms in an effort to expose their music to as many people as possible. But at the same time, they don't get paid for that, right? So they're thinking the payoff comes when these people come to their live shows and support their tours and buy their merchandise. And also for, I've heard of musicians going to different cities on tour, and during the day before the show, they're teaching lessons in one of the bigger music schools or stores in that area, and they're generating revenue that way. Or they're doing private meet and greets before or after the show, where before they perform on stage, they're performing to a group of people who paid VIP prices to come in and get a private performance, or they do that after the show. All of these things are different ways for these artists to be able to generate income, but it's way more work and time on the road for artists than it ever has been before. So it's really, really a very different landscape. I don't know why I went off on this tangent, but I think it's relevant to everything because I'm just talking about the way music has changed, drumming has changed, and really in the sense that, like I said, how people consume drumming content, how people learn about drumming, how people learn how to play the drums, how people become interested in drumming and other instruments as well. It's just very, very different. So then you have, instead of me going out and trying to teach as many people physically as possible in any given day, I find that I could reach a lot of people online. And doing my instructional video course can help a lot of people to get where they want to go in drumming. So it's just a new avenue that's opened up for creatives and educators like myself to go ahead out there and reach more people. So I'm going to keep exploring this subject, and every once in a while maybe I'll talk about it on the show some more if I come up with some new information. But it really struck me as interesting when I was talking to my colleagues yesterday about how the internet may be influencing our young students and the way they learn, the way they became interested in the instrument, and the way they play and perform today. We have a lot of shy people that are playing instruments and having great success and enjoying them very much because maybe they see people not having to perform in front of a crowd, and they see that, hey, I could perform in the comfort of my home without seeing a big audience, without going through those nerves and those feelings, and I could play and I can get positive regard, right? People can give me a thumbs up, comment, give me positive feedback about what I'm doing, and I can kind of get that kind of feeling that way. So I think there's a lot to unpack with this subject of how the landscape of drumming has changed and how the internet and social media and things like YouTube has changed the way we experience musicians, artists, and music in general. All right, I think that's a different discussion for another Drumcast, because it is very interesting to me. Like Jerry says, music for free, merch for a premium. You show up to a live show, you're paying $35 for a t-shirt with your favorite band's logo on it, and maybe the tour date's on the back if you're lucky. $60 for a hoodie with your favorite band's logo on it. And I get it, because again, the model has changed, and this is the way these bands are subsidizing their tours. Because think about it too, the record companies are not paying bands a lot of money anymore, and they're not sending them on tour anymore. It's really kind of a DIY type of situation if you're a band. If you want any kind of interest from record companies, you have to generate a following worthy of that interest. And so that's a lot of work on your part, getting your band out there, playing a lot of shows, flooding social media with your content and trying to gain your own followers before you even get looked at by any kind of a major label. And even then, they'll distribute your music through all of the major streaming services and push your product and maybe put you on a tour. I don't know. There's a lot there. But anyway, if you have any questions or comments, if you liked what you heard, if it made you think about the topic that I brought up today, the landscape of drumming today with the internet and social media, go ahead and give me some comments in the comment section below. Let's have a discussion about it. And speaking of, my Patreon is live. Go ahead and check it out, MarkZDrums at Patreon. I have some really cool stuff on there now, a lot of great stuff going up there very, very soon. Hard at work over here doing the MarkZDrums thing in the MarkZDrums studios. And I think that's it for now. Have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy this beautiful, crisp, clean air that we have out there. And I will catch you next time. Jerry, I want to hear your opinions. Hit me up in the comment section or send me a DM or whatever. And I know you saw my Halloween video. I hope you enjoyed it. Take care, buddy. Take care, everybody else. And for those of you who are new to my channel, go poke around, explore. Go check out some of my other videos. I have a lot of different things on here, and I'm sure you're going to find something you like. So have a great weekend, and I'll catch you next time.